Thanks so much for joining me, Jason. I appreciate it. If you can just kind of walk us through who you are, what you do, and the clients that you work with.
Yeah. So I'm a certified financial planner. I have a investment advisory firm where we help clients with retirement and retirement income. And then we also have another branch where we're helping the younger folks that are more of the accumulators learn to manage their money and to get more connected with their wealth, over the long term. So, but I'm the founder of that, doing that for about 7 years.
Nice. Very cool. And I know we were just talking beforehand and you were mentioning getting ready to launch your group program. So how is that going?
It's a lot, so it's a lot. So it's more of a relaunch, right? So I've done it before. I've ran it with quite a few people, had a lot of good feedback, but just got real busy. And so now we're getting that back in order and just trying to get to the point where we can offer more scalable services and help more people and do it in a way that's more impactful, because I think everybody knows group coaching, can have the biggest impact when you're learning from everybody else along with your own journey. So
yeah, absolutely. And I know the answer to this just through our conversations and how we've been working, but I'm curious what you would say, because you could look at the certified financial planning sector or even the financial sector as kind of competitive, right? There's a lot of people in the space. So what do you do to really make yourself stand out? What's the differentiator there?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is building relationships with people online at scale. Right. So the way that I'm doing that is mostly through content, which I get your help with, obviously, and to my Facebook group, my Facebook page, and then that gets spread everywhere. Right. So that goes to YouTube, that goes to Instagram. And that's where that machine comes in, where I'm trying to stay in front of people at all times. But it's mainly providing, really just building that relationship through my personality and engaging with folks. And it starts with like Facebook Live. But, when you're trying to compete with these multi-million-dollar marketing budgets as a small team, you have to focus more on the interpersonal communication and leveraging relationships versus a brand.
What have you noticed is like the time that you were spending maybe on, creating those live workshops and maybe the leverage you were getting out of it, or like what has changed for you in like the day to day and how you spend your time before a brand creative and now working with us?
Really, it's a very similar process in the sense that I would create that core piece of content and, deliver it live, right? So that part was the part that I was doing myself. But then I had to go to the video editor like iMovie, or I got an AI one recently, which was great, which will pull out some things. But the quality of what I was putting out was just like subpar, in comparison to where working with your team now, when you go to those YouTube videos, they're like YouTube quality, right? They're edited, they have graphics, they look really clean. Ums and uhs are taken out. The stalls are taken out, because for most people who probably have never done this, but for those that have, you can do a live workshop, things just don't always work as perfectly as they look when you're watching a YouTube video, right? So you'll get stalls, things don't work, you got to take breaks. And so all of that gets cleaned up though. And so what I would do before is I mostly do the workshops on Sunday. And so I'd spend about an hour or so preparing, maybe 2 hours sometimes, deliver 30 to 45 minutes. And then I'd have to then go in and do my own form of repurposing after for about 2 or 3 hours. So that was like a 5-hour, process on Sunday evenings that I would just do. And so what I do now is I take that video, I throw it in a folder, I let your team, do what they do. And then all I need to do is I go in and I have to prove everything. So there's a little bit of time on that throughout the week, just to be, honest with whoever's listening to this. But it's more like you're just clicking yes, or hey, fix this, versus having to sit there with that editor, skipping back, re-listening, for hours and hours and hours. So it's just a different way to operate. And then the quality and the expansion of the content has gotten to more platforms and views have increased. So you can see that across, all the different platforms with that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, cool. And so you're getting more leverage essentially out of the content you were creating before
Yes.
too. And I know with us, it was kind of the beginning of starting to post a short form over onto platforms like Instagram and TikTok. And you had a few, I think, on YouTube Shorts previously prior to working with us, or did we really start to lean in with that?
It was very few, man. I was trying to, again, there's like these tools that help you create those things, but they just are not there yet, right? When it comes to getting the right type of content. So really it was pretty minimal. And that was one of my big goals working with your team, is to like take that long form and then break it into the small pieces. And, that's one thing that I think I've improved on over these last 5 months. Because when you do long form, it's just a different, it's a different flow. It's a different energy that you're doing because you have time. When you're trying to get a message across in like 30 seconds to a minute, it's a different type of communication, but that's what is the current type of communication. And so that's something I've learned to tailor my communication with, and then using your team's skill set to put those together. And that's what will then drive people back to watching the longer form after. And that was kind of what I wanted to accomplish in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I know you said you were doing a lot of the editing yourself. You had some AI tools that you've been kind of messing around with, but prior to Upper Hand, had you tried anything else, or had there been any other solutions or working with editors or anything like that in the previous?
I mean, I did a little bit on Fiverr here or there, but when depending how much you want to create, right? The amount of content you want to create. If you want to be consistently putting out, like a 45-minute video each week, and then you want to have someone edit that on Fiverr, I mean, you could save some money doing that, but then you're having to manage the whole process, all the way through. And then you may not get the consistency with the branding. So I think, those type of things have been helpful. And one thing you didn't ask about, but that is probably an underutilized service, is the graphic design work that I've been able to take the same branding that your team put together in my brand kits and then apply that across everything. And I literally just added one more thing yesterday as a report cover to it's a report I give to every single client now that has my branding versus the company's branding. So those things as well, I didn't even know really at the beginning how much was offered there, but I've been trying to take more and more advantage of that as we've gone on.
Yeah, that's a good point. I often forget about that as well. So it's just so ingrained into what we do, but that's good to hear. Okay. So you mentioned earlier, right? The way you differentiate is by building relationships. And I think a lot of times people that come into the program, they are already doing that either in a very grassroots way or a very face-to-face way. And so once they start moving into the social media and they realize they can leverage their time and build relationships at scale online, right? It's a whole new world. For you, I know you were already doing that, like you said, with your Facebook group and your community there. But what have you seen so far over the last 5 months? Like, how has business shifted for you, or how have you seen those relationships scale? Like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah. So this is actually a really interesting question. So if you're a financial advisor like me, like most advisors are horrible at social media in the first place, right? That's just, they want to be a technician. And this is for any technician out there. This is for the lawyers, the accountants, whoever it may be that's like a professional. We just want to be the technicians. But I read a book early on that basically said, you can be as good of a technician as you want, but if nobody knows about you, then no one's going to come do business with you, right? So I started early with just doing videos because I looked around and I said, what do people not want to do? And everybody wants to write blogs and, do this stuff where it can hide and just not have to be in front of a camera. So I committed to just, getting in front of a camera. But then I learned about this concept of Facebook groups and Facebook pages where people can follow you, and be there. So instead of having to go to a networking meeting and maybe have 1 to 3 good conversations over the course of 5 hours, I have, 35 to 150 sometimes people showing up live to watch that initial video that are interacting with me, asking questions and, telling me where they're from, right? And you get to kind of learn all these different things about people. And then I'm able to ask questions live to the group about what they want to learn about or what they want to know about or what makes sense or what doesn't make sense. So then now I'm able to tailor my content so they continue to come back because they know I care about them individually. And you're able to do that at scale with something like this. And it's just a matter of a big difference was that would kind of end. It would start and end on a Sunday, right? And I would put my link to book a call and some people watch that throughout the week. Now, when we have content going out, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and then I'm doing my lives on the weekends, now we're hitting basically 6 days a week where I'm getting in front of people. So what I'm able to do more is drop that link to schedule a call with me, for example, or to download this resource. And I'm able to do more of the asks, and Gary Vaynerchuk would call it the right hook, right? Because we're jabbing all week, delivering free content versus only doing it when I was doing that live. And so that has gotten a lot more expensive. And in the last few weeks, especially, I've just been getting inundated with different leads from different lead sources that I wasn't quite getting the same way before.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great to hear. And I know it was a couple months ago when we last talked about this, but you were saying too, you were even getting not necessarily lead flow, but some conversation starters from people that have been in your warm circle for a while, right? And then knew what you did, but now they're kind of starting to reach out on a different level, right? Can you maybe shed some light on that?
Yeah, so that was interesting. So I've been putting out content long form for a long time, so I'm 42, I'm in my early 40s. And I had people that were from my youth that were friends with me on Facebook and someone on Instagram, they started reaching out because they're really into watching the shorter videos. And so they wouldn't go and watch a 30-minute video, but they'll watch those 1-minute videos. So I started getting a bunch of people. These were people from high school that I knew, even, younger than that happened to be friends with on Facebook, started to reach out, ask questions, wanted to set up consultation calls. And that all came out of nowhere. That was really from getting that short form content added into what I was already doing.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you've really been able to put in this holistic content strategy, whereas you had a lot of the nuts and bolts results before you came to us with that long form content. You had the audience, and now just being able to expand that and even reach a new audience because of not any additional effort on your end necessarily in creating that short form content, but in getting more mileage out of the content you had before. So
exactly. Yeah. And that was my intention
cool.
of, joining on working with you guys. So
yeah, cool. Okay. Well, how would you define, right, being 5 months in, like what would you say your overall biggest win is from working with Upper Hand?
Yeah. So I got this, vacation coming up here. I'm going to take off to Utah for about a week or so, go hiking. And I just went through and approved all the content that's going to go out over the next couple of weeks, over the next few days. So I'm able to stay in front of my audience without having to be there. Where before it was just a chug. Every single weekend I was doing something different to stay in front of them. And so when you are, once you understand how algorithms work with like social media, they just want you to do something consistently, all the time. And so if you have that going, it's kind of, you have this machine going in the background where like, now I can leave for a little bit, still stay in front of people. And then by the time I get back, just pick it back up and not really like have a break necessarily, in that algorithm break or even just in my attention break of the people that do engage with me.
That's awesome. Very cool. Last question for you, Jason. First of all, how did you find me initially, if you remember?
I think it was on a Facebook ad that I originally saw you. I'm a big fan of Facebook ads. I feel like they are very good at finding people at the right time. So I found that in my experience. And then I had also been looking for that repurposing service, So again, I probably just read, I was doing some research on that and that came in front and, what you said, Matt, I think I told you this too. I said, hey, if you can do what you're promising, I'm going to be very happy. Right? Because this is something I was looking for because you have to have, this is what people may not understand is you have to have like a multifaceted team to do all of this, right? So you need like a project manager, you need an editor, you need a copywriter, you need a graphic designer. And so again, you might be able to put that together. And I think it's what you told me. Hey, you could probably put this together for around the same price, maybe a little cheaper, but then you have to manage it and it may not be as good. Why not let us just handle it? And then it's hands off for you. What's that work to you when it comes to your time, right? And so that is, what you have delivered so far. And so I've been happy, been around 5 months and not planning to, cancel or anything at this point, just planning to figure out more ways that I can do things just to level up what I'm doing so that everything comes out, even better each time. So,
yeah, I love that. And on that note, I know you had your hesitations coming in, right? We had a couple conversations in terms of like the investment and the ROI and all of that. And I'm curious just where you are now and then having come in doing very specifically what you needed as well. What would you say to anybody that is kind of on the fence or considering working with Upper Hand?
Yeah, my guess, and you can tell me if I'm wrong here, most of these folks don't do anything on social media. Is that fair to say on average?
Yeah, I'd probably say about half.
Okay. So if you're somebody who is, not on social media, doesn't want to sit there and, do all the work, all you really have to do to get what you need to get done is turn on that camera, talk about what you do, answer specific questions about what you do to help people, and then drop it in a folder and let the team take care of it. So if you want something that's like pretty hands off, that you don't have to be an expert about, that you can have somebody that makes you look good, then it's definitely going to be a good fit for you. And so for those, I've referred you to somebody already that I think is going to be a good fit to bring over. But as professionals, especially the older ones, right? So these are, I'm very connected with the older crowd. I was a bar manager and bartender and everyone's 55 plus years old. So I really like, older people. But these folks are the ones that might have a career left like another 10, 15 years or so. And they know they need to adapt with the times, but the whole thing's just so overwhelming. Like they just don't even know where to start. Like if that's you, then this is a service you really need. Because honestly, I'm very fluent in this stuff. My brother's an editor. He's a professional editor. And so I know good quality. I know what you really need to have. And what Gianna offers is a very good product. And I think it's a very fairly priced. It's not the cheapest out there, but that's okay. But it's very fairly priced. And the value you get matches or exceeds what you're going to be paying. And if you're somebody who's trying to move into the online space because you want to get your message out there in a bigger way and not have to go to these networking meetings all the time, not have to like worry about should I shake people's hands or wear a mask or all this other stuff that's been going on these last couple of years, this is the perfect way to do it. And it's something called attraction marketing. And if you just put your message out there, people will find you and come to you. And you don't have to go out and go to the meetings all the time. And so by having the service available, it's just going to make your life a lot easier. And it's going to help you expand out your reach and your message without too much extra time in your week beyond, sitting down and creating that video and talking about what you do for a few minutes. Yeah,
that's great. And that's very well said, right? I often try to convey that in terms of leveraging your time and, hey, what you're doing is working. And now if you just take it online, you can do it at 10x speed. So I think that's spot on. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much, Jason. I appreciate your time. This has been awesome. I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you and see where you take this to new heights.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.